that's a real critical point, I think, is to engage employees. I think any business owner, if they want to analyze their company to find out if they're high performing or not, if a good gauge of a business, Quentin, is employee engagement. There is no finer gauge of a business for potential. I mean, we can look at profitability and say they have an 18% profitability, but are they capable of 28? What are they capable of? And it's very hard to say that unless you're in the business. Like Gary, I'm sure you could look at a paving company in Reno, Nevada and say whether they're performing and whether they're maximizing their capabilities because you understand P&Ls so well. But I could look at a company and find out what their employee engagement score is and realize that they're underperforming. And I'm working with two people I met through the organization I spoke at with you, YPO. And it's a company out of Detroit that has 2 units, 2 separate companies. And they followed up and did an employee engagement survey. And they sent me the results, and I said, it's very obvious where you need to work. It's all the red marks, all the ones that came out in red. Work on those. Excuse me. Yeah. Work on those, and your engagement will soar, and your profitability and productivity will. It does. The second point is discretionary thinking. And this is this 4 points of profitability, culture, the 4 positives of having solid culture, core values, comes from a woman named Sue Funkhausen, which is an organizational development expert from California. I believe she's in San Francisco. But her point, that last one, is it engages employees and increases discretionary effort. Let's dwell on the discretionary effort. The average person has 60,000 thoughts a day. 60,000 thoughts. That's according to the Institute of Mental Health and Wellness. I think us entrepreneurs have about 120,000 thoughts a day because it's part of our disease of entrepreneurship. It just keeps going and going. We don't shut it off at 5 o'clock and go home. But that discretionary effort, discretionary thoughts, the average company gets between 4 and 6% of those thoughts a day. That's all they get out of 60,000 thoughts. And my goal after reading about this and studying this in depth was why can't we get 8 to 10% or 8 to 12% of Tasty Catering? Now, if we could get that, that's a difference of 250,000 thoughts a day. What business owner wouldn't want their employees to give them 250,000, him or her, but give 250,000 more thoughts a day?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
So then the next progression is, how do you increase discretionary effort? Well, following a solid culture, making sure the culture is alive. But also the big negative about discretionary thoughts is disruptors. So if I walked in today and the person sitting in the cubicle next to me is doing something that just turns me off and it violates our values, I'm sitting there thinking, why doesn't my supervisor, why doesn't my team leader discipline that person? Or if there's some other irritant, a disruptor going on in there goes your discretionary thoughts. The discretionary thoughts become about the negatives.
Yeah.
It's not about how to make this company better. It's about what jackasses are running this company. So then the focus became focusing on the disruptors. And invariably the disruptors are caused by people not following the culture. And that's why as Chief Culture Officer, I pay attention to whether people are violating the values or not.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt that our business today, your business, I know for sure, weeds out people pretty fast that don't match the culture, right? Because they're driven by the culture. They love the culture. They come to work on Mondays excited to be there very often, right? Can't say everybody every day, but we have people that are excited to be here on Mondays, and I think that they're going to weed out those that come along that don't meet those core values. In interviews and our recruiting, we might miss a few things, right? We try hard, but we may miss a few things, or maybe somebody told us something that we believe that wasn't true as far as how they match our culture. But again, our team members weed that out pretty fast. That didn't happen 20 years ago.
No,
didn't happen at all 20 years ago. It happens today a lot, and that's exciting when you have a culture, a foundation that's that strong, right? Doesn't allow weakness very often to be part of the team. That's amazing, right? So it's not you and I having to make the decision that often anymore, right?
Yeah, I think Gary, we've discovered that when you have a solid set of values, it's very easy to hire on those values and fire on those values. But more importantly, it's very easy to hold people accountable to the values.
Yes.
Are you treating people with respect? Then it's not Tom or Gary speaking to a staff member. It's what you agreed to work on. There's our commandments. That's what we agreed to. Are you doing that? Now it takes it from that intrinsic, the extrinsic, where I'm telling you to behave, and your intrinsic first reaction will be negative, rejecting it. Who are you to tell me what to do?
Mm-hmm.
To an altruistic purpose. We both agreed to live this way. We're not.
Right.
So I think it's one of our greatest leadership tools is having an effective culture.
What are your 7 core values, Tom?
First one is will always be moral, ethical, and legal. And it's very difficult for people to understand ethics. Morals are understandable in our company because I asked them for a definition when they created this. Morals are what does it take to fit into your group right now? So if you're 19 years old, your group has different morality structure than a 71-year-old man's group. But ethics is consistent across the pace. I've never met a human being that disagreed with ethics, and we use Kant's version of ethics. One is the right to be told the truth. Second one is the right to privacy. Third one is the right not to be injured, financially, physically, emotionally, psychologically. And fourth is the right to an implied or explicit contract. So if I see an employee underperforming, I said, that's unethical. You're violating core value 1. Do you expect a paycheck this week? You're not giving me what I'm getting for your pay.
Yeah.
So first one is we're always moral, ethical, and legal. 2 is treat all with respect. 3 is quality in everything we do. 4 is high service standards. 5 is competitiveness, a strong determination to be the best. 6 is an individual circle of discipline. In our instance, the way we explain that is that you own something. Everybody has to own something because I can only relate to being a dad. If I'm a dad and I come into work and I make decisions at my house, why do I come into work and instantly become submissive to somebody and not make any decisions? It's violating my nature. It's a gigantic disruptor. So everybody owns something. And then core value number 7 is freedom and responsibility within that circle of discipline. So you're free to make decisions, but you're responsible for them. So you can make any decision you want, but you're responsible for whatever you decide.
Right.
How powerful is that when you do that to a 19 or 20-year-old person working on a picnic, running a company picnic, that they're empowered to make a decision and no one will be upset with them if they made a wrong decision because they'll say, it was my number 6 and my number 7.
I like it.
And one girl, I'm going to talk about her later today in a presentation, made a decision at 19 years old that cost the company $5,000. First one to do it, she's in our tribal storybook. And that customer is one of our strongest customers today because she gave away an event because it wasn't living up to our values. We violated. So I think every employee that's been there for more than 6 months could say those 7 core values, Gary.
Awesome.
It's just what we are.
And you wrote a couple books here, Tom. We talked about books earlier. Just go into the why'd you write those books? What inspired you to do that? And a little bit about each book.
Well, I only wrote one book, Gary. The other ones were journal articles in academia. And I was on this incredible learning quest back in 2007 through 2010 as I marveled at young people running a company, given complete power to run a company and change the behaviors. They didn't really want to make many decisions about finance and growth at the beginning. They just wanted the behaviors to change. But then they started making decisions about growth and opportunities and starting new companies. So I looked at other companies that were winning best places to work. We had entered best places to work and took number 1 in Illinois for a couple of years in a row, and then 2 and 4 and 1, kept varying in the top 5. And then we entered national awards like Inc. Magazine, Wall Street Journal, and we took best place to work in the country. And I looked at the competitors, and one of them was at Wall Street Journal's awards, and one of them was Mike's Express Car Wash in Indianapolis. All 3 of us are laughing, right?
Wow.
Right, Quentin? Is that what you think of as a great place to work, a car wash?
Well, I mean, you do need your car washed, I guess. Do it with a smile, I guess.
Well, I was so stunned. I got in my car the next day. I'm getting my car washed in Indianapolis because I said I have to go see.
Yeah.
Because my opinion in Chicago of car washes is not the greatest place to work. And when I went down there and saw these kids working, I was stunned.
Really?
So I asked him, why are you guys so good? And the young man that was taking my order for how I wanted my car wash, pulled out his values out of his pocket. He said, this is what makes us different. And I was stunned. And if you go into a Mike's Express Car Wash today, they're in 3 states, 31 cities, you're going to find the same thing.
Wow.
They'll pull out the values and say, this is how we live.
What do they do? I mean, visually, what do they do differently that you can see? What did you feel different when you go into that car wash compared to others? I mean,
Smiling faces that make eye contact of bright, brilliant young people. bright, brilliant young people, not the dregs of society that are fermenting because they can't find a better job. God hasn't been kind to them. Something hasn't worked right. And, if you see some people in these lower echelon jobs, it's like they've lost hope. These people all sparkled with hope. There was
They
opportunities.
look like victors instead of victims.
Exactly correct, Gary. Well said.
Yeah.
So how do you though go into these companies and say, hey, I'm here, Quentin, to examine your company. I want to know everything you did, and I want to see your P&Ls. You'd say, well, don't let the door hit you, right? But it was 2009, and we'd been winning these awards, and a retired Air Force colonel came to us. He just retired from the healthcare in the Air Force, and said he wanted to do his doctoral dissertation on Tasty. He asked if we could do it. And I said, what's the title of the dissertation? He said, An Ethnographic Study of Culture in a Small Workplace. And I said, what does that mean? And he says, we're going to study your behaviors, how people get along with each other. And I thought for a moment, I said, sure, if I get the copyright for the book. He said, what book? I said, well, we've got to write a story about other companies. I'm thinking, if I'm letting this guy come in here because I want to find out about my culture, what if he knocked on other doors and said, I want to learn about your company? We're going to write a book, and it's going to be featured in universities. So the book, I didn't think it would be a bestseller. I didn't want to go that route. I didn't want to write another business, how I became successful book. I wanted to find out something that was academically sound and evidence-based research, that this is the truth, that it can stand up to any academic evidence-based research principles. I wanted it to use empirical data. And now that book's in like 60 universities used, and that's why I tour and speak at universities. If they use the book, I'm there to speak for them. Obviously there's expenses that have to be taken care of, but no fee. It also gives me an opportunity to check young people's brains to find out what's motivating them today.
And now you're invited on these universities that wouldn't have you before, which
Well,
is
that
pretty
threw
cool.
me out.
Kinda
Yeah.
cool, right?
Exactly correct. But this history then, we've had 6 doctoral dissertations done. The last one was by a lady out of Portland, Oregon. It was titled Me to We, Distributive Leadership Methodology, and how she scientifically proved that this distributive leadership method works perfectly, but we're the only company she ever found that uses it. And we didn't know what it was. We had no clue what we were doing.
Awesome.
It just happened to work out, and she identified it. So we came up with a list of about 15 companies, and we recruited Dr. Ken Thompson out of DePaul University. He'd been at Notre Dame University, and he had written some academic books, and he was a senior examiner for the Malcolm Baldrige Award, which is the top award given to businesses in this country. It's given by the U.S. Congress. Very prestigious award, very hard to get. And we whittled it down to 8 businesses, small businesses that were high achievers, that had excelled in their areas. One of them was a hospital, Good Samaritan Hospital in Downers Grove, Illinois, and they won the Malcolm Baldrige, the first hospital to win it. And there was a shooting supply company out of Columbia, Missouri, and they won the Malcolm Baldrige. And then some other, Rich Panico's Integrated Project Management has won the Baldrige also. He's out of Burr Ridge. They have project managers in 9 cities, and they're extremely successful. And Jack Stack's Springfield Remanufacturing Center is another one. But when we went into these companies to do the research to find out what made them tick, we thought that it would be leadership, we thought it would be culture, we thought it would be systems and processes, but we never expected what we found. And when we walked into the companies, it would be Dr. Thompson and Dr. Benedetto doing research for a book on small businesses. And I'm there as a researcher, right? But I'm the guy asking all the business questions, wanting to see the P&Ls. And the book found out that it was employee engagement. That was the differentiator. Every one of these companies scored over 90% in employee engagement scores. And every one of them was profitable, high productivity, and an industry leader.
Wow.
So that's the basis of the book. And then we brought in a 22-year-old millennial girl, Molly Meyer, who was working for New Fork, the creative agency we use, as a content writer. And we asked her to work with us because she had told us that her dream in life was to write a book. And so she came on board with us and translated the book into common speak from 360-year-old men speak.
That is awesome. So if you don't mind, so you have a #1 bestseller. You were inducted, you and Gary, but you were inducted to the UIC Entrepreneurship Hall of Fame, which is an amazing feat. And you have a lot of other awards when it comes to amazing culture with Tasty Catering. What are some of those awards? And then what's probably the most important one out of all of them?
The most important one is the psychologically healthiest workplace in the United States for a small business. And we won that first time in 2014 after winning Illinois Psychological Association's psychologically healthiest workplace. Boy, that says a lot. I'm getting all those syllables in there. And then we won the national award the year after that for employee involvement because so many of our employees, or so many businesses launched out of our company. And the employees became so involved. The engagement scores were like 98% engagement at that time. And then I'm leaving the business, and my understudy's been replacing me for 4 years. So last year we wanted to do another baseline with the American Psychological Association. So we submitted ourselves to be examined by them. And during this process, 3 psychologists and a doctoral student come in and examine, and they test all the employees, and they ask questions randomly of the employees. And again, we won in North America and the United States the psychologically healthiest workplace. There were 10 of us winners that year, though. 2014, we were the only company to pass the criteria.
Wow.
Now other companies are starting to understand that this is a good indicator. And what that means, Quentin, is that what that means to me is that we've created a safe space where people are happy. They go home happy, their families are happy. When you have happy employees and people our business is to make people happy. And how do you make people happy at an event if you're a nasty person? So I think that's the one that I hope they put on my casket when I die. If my wife doesn't burn me. If she burns me, they put it next to the urn.
Okay, so when you think of employee engagement, I mean that's a big part of the secret, right? I mean,
Yes.
They gotta be safe. They gotta be happy. They anything else you can think of that.
For your listeners, Gary, they could just go to Google Gallup 12 questions, Q12, 12 questions, and that's the basis for every employee engagement survey.
Say that again.
Gallup 12 questions.
Gallup 12 questions.
Yeah, you just have to put Gallup 12 in your Google search and it'll pop up.
All right. Yeah, well, I mean, I can see it. I mean, your core values are solid. You've created a place where, like you're saying, people love being there. It's like family, and you see that. When I've toured your operation a couple of times,
awesome.
And we recommend people. Quentin drags people
All
in
the
there all the
time.
time.
Yeah.
Mentees that want to know about great business and all that, and every time they come away wowed, like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And how much these people make? You think they're making $50 an hour. They're so happy, right?
Yeah, and in the catering field, what's the average retention rate, and then what is you all's retention rate for employees?
It's a great question, Quentin. I think the national average is 50% because there's such a huge turnover in hospitality. And Tasty's been 4% for the last 3 years. I only tracked the last 3 years. 4%.
How fun is that, huh?
96% of the people stay.
Well, and we talk about this all the time. We on Ditch Digger CEO, we want outliers, people that think differently, that go beyond, that become outliers in their industries. And you're a huge outlier in your in your industry.
Absolutely.
And in business on the whole. I mean, again, when you compare any business, manufacturing, any business that has pays entry level wages to get people going, and not a heck of a lot more than that, even senior people, because you can't compete with huge wages. Not a lot of people we've ever seen have a culture like yours. No matter not just catering, of course, but manufacturing and many other industries we see. Right, Q?
Yeah.
I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Well, thank you. Though I to be very transparent, I'm only the keeper of the culture. It was created by our employees. It was created by 7 staff members, and my brothers and I were not allowed to participate in it. So it was truly by the employees, for the employees. And it was them that insisted upon it being posted. It was them that talked about how to enforce it. So I'm just the keeper of the culture. It has to, and these were millennials. I mean, these were kids, 24, 23. These are brilliant. They were brilliant, but they were just young pups. But they didn't know any better to know what they don't know. It was awesome.
But again, it takes great leadership to recognize that you have people that care, that love and care about you and the business, that you can trust in these changes, right? Because if you don't have that, you couldn't trust them. They don't trust you even to even care, right? So That's the awesome part of it is, the people that you trusted you, and sure enough, the big change culturally for you has been through their leadership as you let them lead as a leader you are, right? So that's really awesome.
So as you're finishing big, as you call it, what's the next? What's next for Tom Walter? What are some of the next things that you have an amazing business. You've actually, and maybe you want to elaborate on that, how you've sold into other people and helped them start businesses as well. So you have a quality legacy that you're building daily. But what are some of the next things that Tom has on his plate?
That's the biggest question in my life is what's next. After been in business as an owner for 49 years, and there was always a clear path of where I was going. And now I realize that physically and mentally, I'm at a part of my life that I should not be making decisions about the future. I think that the biggest problem in leaving what I'm doing is I have no place to go. And the only place that I'm feeling comfortable with true mentors and folks like that, sharing what I've learned with younger people, with people that are struggling with businesses. I don't want to be a consultant because I don't have the education to do that, Quentin. But I can just share life experiences and say what I think is important. Just like a father. I'm a grandfather. I'm an old man. But, as we get older, we get wiser. And you're young and brilliant, and young people are young and brilliant and knowledgeable. But if I could help you with wisdom and you help me with knowledge, boy, what a pair we could be. Huh? And I see young people making decisions, and sometimes I wonder, that's really not that important. This is a little bit more important. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I like speaking to college students. I like speaking to business owners about what I've learned. Doesn't mean it's right. But here's another issue that I have about business owners. What worked for me is because of my personality? No. What worked for me is because it's based on ethics and ethical behavior. And this is the way people act. They want to act in an ethical manner. And ethical is one of the points that your group, Gary, has as a core value. The word ethic is right there. And I looked at that and said, that is the most powerful word, I think, on that whole statement, in your whole core value statement. So I want to make sure that what I explain to people is based on evidence-based research, to go back to the academic term. And I'm a member of the Academy of Management, and I spend a week with 12,000 professors every year. This year is going to be in Boston, learning what they've found out in research about millennials, Generation Z. What are they doing that's different from any other generation, and how do you appeal to them? And nobody can dispute the fact that they want to be treated in an ethical behavior, in an ethical manner, no matter what their background is.
Well, you underplay yourself a lot, and I know that's you because you don't think of yourself any different than anybody else. But I believe that great leaders do what you've been doing for a long time. It's not like you just started doing this. You share your experiences to hopefully help others not have the bad experiences you might have had, and to also maybe gain some knowledge from the good experiences you've had. Now, that's not common. I mean, there's great people, I believe, do that. You've been doing this for since I've known you. If you wanted to be a consultant, you'd be an amazing consultant, because consultants I see that I know that do consulting, the best of them just share experiences, and they're transparent. They're loving, transparent, and they just want to see people succeed. That's the best consultants. The worst consultants, in my opinion, take all the information out of a book, and they're very very academia driven, and I don't think if you don't have experiences, it's hard to share them, right? If you're sharing them out of a book, gosh, it's just not that strong. So again, if you wanted to be a high-priced consultant, you'd be an amazing one. You'd make more money you ever want to make, probably, if you really wanted to be that. But you're so doggone giving that you're like, I just want to do this because I love people, I love doing this. But man, I would pay you a ton, and I think any good great business would look at you and say, bring him in, man. How much we got to pay him? How much you got to pay this guy? Because he's worth every penny.
I'd be honored to work with both you guys.
Yeah,
I don't need the money.
Your share experience,
but I would love the opportunity.
Your share experiences are amazing, and again, you don't ever undervalue my. And I know you don't. You're a gracious guy, and so it's a lot of fun to see what you do and how you impact so many. And I just look at True Mentors and what Quentin has built in True Mentors, and we've got a few people like you. That are amazing, that really give back to these young people, and it's a blessing to watch that. So.
And if True Mentors has got some wonderful people, mentees that are in that group. And after our last introduction with some of your folks, they've continued with emails to me, and that's just so rewarding. What do you think about this situation? Just a simple question. And I only wish that would have been available to me 40 years ago.
Yeah.
The opportunity to speak to somebody. But
It's fun stuff. What else have we not hammered it on yet here? Did we miss anything yet?
No, we've done extremely well. I know for sure, and you can testament to it, is, we're in an amazing, and I guess I could take the lead on it, we're in an amazing country where opportunity comes, and in other places don't necessarily have the opportunity to build a business like you have, Tom, and so into people like you have, Tom. So I know Gary normally, which he kind of leads this effort, is expressing the importance of just what type of business you have. Could you have had that any place else? Can you have created a business like you've had from nothing in the type of business you have in any other place outside of this amazing country?
maybe Israel. And maybe some of the Scandinavian countries. But I don't think it's possible because one of our advantages is that we are so culturally diverse and we have so many ethnic and religious backgrounds. And yet, through all of that diversity, once again, it's all rooted in behavior, normal behavior or ethics. But I've watched our employees go out and start companies based on values, and those companies become very successful. I've seen other close friends start companies without rejecting values, and they weren't successful. So I don't think there's a better country in than the United States about building a strong economy through entrepreneurs. This country is now 99.7% of all businesses in the United States have less than 500 employees. We're entrepreneurial, small business driven. And in 2010, millennials became the largest generation in the workforce. 2011, women became the dominant gender in the workforce in the United States. And in 2014, culture was the most researched word in the Merriam-Webster Online Dictionary. And I don't think there's any, I think that's a very powerful statement. You put those three together, Quentin, is that young women in a strong organizational culture that empowers people, not just women, all people, I think gives the United States a competitive advantage like none other. I think this world, I'm going to go off on a political rant for 2 or 3 sentences. I think this world would be better off if only mothers could be country leaders, because no mother who carries a child in their womb is going to want to kill another child, at least a normal, not a psychopathic or sociopathic mom. And I think that we've not paid attention to the value of women as leaders for a long period of time. And I don't think as an old white male, I don't think that's any fault of my generation or anything else. It's just that women have babies. Most women have babies. And it takes them out of the workforce for a period of time. And their number one thought is their child. You're going to be a dad. I'm a dad. Gary's a dad. But that factor of that child isn't number one in our mind all the time. It's providing for that child is number one. That's the typical male role.
Yeah.
Now, women, it's different. Women, the number one role is my child. I might be working in a job, but it's my child.
Yeah.
It's most important. And I have 5 sisters, and all sisters were excellent. They did better than the boys in school. One's a PhD, one's an MD, and 2 have master's degree, and one has her bachelor's. None of my brothers finished college, not one. Yet the girls were all intelligent. They were all articulate, well-educated, and they were better athletes. So I've grown up my whole life realizing that the only difference between men and women is their gender, is the specific parts that make them biologically different. But there are some emotional differences, but those emotional differences are more of a maturity. I think this revolution in the United States of recognizing women for what women are capable of doing, and including at a high level, is very important. And it was women that helped change Tasty Catering to what they are. And it's a woman in our culinary area that we call her the mother of Tasty Catering. She's only 35 years old, but she's the heart and soul of our company because she's so caring about people. I think this is the next revolution of this country, is being able to recognize a gender and bring them to prominence like they've never been promoted before. And I see a lot of change going on. But anyway, that's my political rant for a moment.
That was good.
We're in accord there. I think there's a movement going on that as a business owner, as a business leader, I think we have to be very sensitive to. And this is, when I was young, women could only compete in playing bridge or pinochle or hearts. Even the only thing that they could compete in school was to be first chair violin, first chair trumpet, first chair whatever. Even the brass instruments, they wouldn't let girls play because it would ruin their lips. They wouldn't have perfect lips. Then Title IX came along. It was one of the radical changes that I've seen in this country. And now women are playing sports at all levels, and they're competing, and they're kick-ass competing. The women's national soccer team is an example of that. And I now study, well, when we hire people, we want them to be part of a team. And if you're not part of a team before you come to Tasty Catering, you're not going to get a job if you haven't been a member of a team or something else that has differentiated you. But I think in 10 or 15 or 20 years, and I probably won't be along to see this, we're going to see women who have grown up with competition, Gary, where you say they're hesitant. Unless they know they're going to win, they're not going to take a chance. That was the old style woman that was told, only bet on a sure thing. I think a lot of women today, we're generalizing and we're speaking wrong when you generalize like this. But I think just like we saw a trend of non-smoking in the 70s when they stopped smoking, and now lung cancer is diminished. And instead we're dying of obesity. But lung cancer is just gone because people don't smoke anymore. It took 30 years to get there, 40 years in this case. But I think in another 20 years, you're going to see the effects of Title IX with women not afraid to take that chance. Even if they have a 20% chance of victory, they're going to go for it because they've been raised their whole life. Train, compete, and win. My daughter is that way. She became a professional soccer player, and there isn't anything she doesn't want to compete in. And even if she has a 20% chance of beating her brother in something, she's going to go up there and try it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great.
So I think it's changing, and I think we're going to get to that stage where the biggest problem, again, is that women get pregnant. They get pregnant at a beautiful growth stage between 25 and 35 or something. And
and they're going to have that setback. I mean,
how do we get around God?
A period of time of 9 months, they're always going to love that baby, so it's going to take them back further in that work time frame than a man, no matter what. And then many of them, we're blessed to be able to have our wives and our mothers that raise our kids full time in many cases. Well, if that's 20 years out of the workplace, they jump back in, and it doesn't take them long to really get back on pace. But they're behind, of course, and so we have that as part of our culture, right?
But during that time,
fortunately, we have that.
During that time, they grew emotional intelligence, raising family, dealing with a nasty husband, raising those beautiful babies.
Compassion, right?
Learning from the neighborhood moms, from the parent teachers. So they learn about how to deal with people. So when women come back in the workplace, I want them to be facing front. I want them to be out with people because they've learned how to deal with people. The guys who come in and sit in the job and do the same job every day in their cubicle, they're not learning how to deal with issues.
Right.
So it's very interesting. We could philosophize about this for hours, I think.
But it's part of it's part of these building these businesses, trying to understand the paradigms of each person that comes to work for us, the diversity of paradigm, and we've got it hundreds of ways over in our businesses, right? And
correct.
And if you don't try to understand that, then you're
not growing.
You're not growing. You're gonna you have to generalize kind of what people think, but you're never going to be right on because everybody's so different, right? Mm-hmm. So, but that's what you've done. You've built a business with culture and community that's not common. That if anybody can see your example and learn from it, they're going to be so much better off. Their business will be way more successful. Our businesses learn a lot from your business as well as so many. And true mentors. We have all these young mentors and mentees that are learning from Tasty Catering. So.
Absolutely.
And I learned from them.
So thank you, buddy. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Well, I got some true takeaways here from Tom Walter before we wrap up. And when I mean this is some powerful stuff, you guys, please, I don't even have to promote it, but you might want to re-listen to this and give this to people that at your specific company so they can understand the value and listen to this over and over and over. But, one of the things you said was, you hire people not only for skill, but for who they are And I think that's extremely huge because, again, that shows the culture aspect of it. Your people are your differentiator, you know, and that's huge because you're not the only one out there. And that's a testament. You know, Gary's out there, shaking hands and connecting with people and talking about how amazing the Ray-Ban group of companies are. But it's because of the people more than anything. A good gauge of business is employee engagement. You know, a good gauge. So if you don't have quality employee engagement, then maybe your business is not as good as you thought it was. But I think one thing that you said, which is disruptors are a cause of people not following the culture. And disruptors can be all types of things. And you gave a quality example of it. You know, with mentees, I know they're always, well, I know I need to create core values and stuff like that. And I think one thing you said, which is huge, ethics is one of the most powerful words for a core value in any way, shape, or form. And as I think about it, every place that I've had that displays their core values that is doing extremely well, ethics is in there somewhere.
Or integrity, right?
Or integrity, yes. Absolutely. But one of the best things that I'm taking away from this, and all of that was good, you guys, but this is a nugget that you want to make sure that you keep. You are here on earth to get your family to heaven. Mm-hmm. And that right there lets you know that is your biggest mission. Because like Gary always says, what is your definite chief aim for your life? And that, in my mind, for any man or woman, that should be it right there. Yep. So that was huge, Tom. That was huge.
Awesome. And I really appreciate you being here, brother. You're awesome. And every minute I get to spend with you is a great minute in my life. So
and mine too, spending time with you guys.
So thanks a lot, Tom Walters.
If we were to look at mentors in life, and this is what I tell young people, surround yourself with excellence. And I'm here with two wonderful, excellent men, and that's awesome.
Man, I appreciate that coming from you. It means a lot, brother.
Yeah. Well, see you all next time on Ditch Diggers CEO.
See ya.